I just don't think that you really appreciate or give a darn about what I do around here. I just really don't appreciate. You don't appreciate anything.
Yeah, of course I don't appreciate anything, because that's just what do you do around that I'm supposed to appreciate?
I get up every day.
So do
I
I.
go to work.
So do I.
I provide for this family.
Mm-hmm. And so do I.
The lifestyle you're living is because of
both
what
of
I
us.
put on the table.
Because of what we both put on the table. So
Yeah,
tell
you
me, what
gotta-
else do you do besides
You
go
get
to
a
work?
little check, but at the end of the day, what?
That little check helps subsidize this house and this family and our vacations.
Anyway, fix me something to eat. I'm hungry.
Now fix it yourself.
I'm not. That's your job.
I never signed paperwork that said I was going to be cooking for you every day. You know what? I think I'm just leaving. I'm going to leave the kids with you. This is on you, Chris.
Yeah, this is what you do.
I'll see you later. Bye. Okay. Hi, everybody.
That was cheesy, but okay. That's real, though.
Well,
That's real.
It's it's cheesy, but it's real. So
It go down like that for real.
yeah,
Like,
and actually, today's show, what we wanted to demonstrate to you all was how ineffective communication can escalate from something.
really simple. I was just playing with you, and all of a sudden you took it real serious, and then it turned into something major.
Oh, I agree, but then again, at nowhere in the language or in the communication that you were sending my direction was there anything playful or joking.
You know me. I come from a different world, so we would say things like it's like encouraging, because like if someone says
You suck
to me,
is encouraging?
if someone says to me, you don't really care about this, then it's like they're only encouraging me to go harder. That's all.
Well, to me, if someone says you don't care about this, it's not encouraging. It's just telling me you don't care about this.
Oh, nah, man. Because if I felt that you didn't care, I would just tell you. Like,
You don't care. So how am I supposed to know the difference,
we would have
Chris?
a real conversation about, I don't think that you really into this. And then it will go deeper. But if you're just throwing it out there on the fly, you should know your partner.
No, I agree you should know your partner, but when things are thrown out there on the fly, or there's in a conversation, something comes out that's hurtful, offensive, it puts the other person on the defense, which is basically what we were exhibiting here was, you were coming and you were saying something which, whether it was a joke or not, it put me on the defensive.
Right.
So the key to effective or having a healthy, happy relationship is effective communication. We just totally showed what is ineffective communication.
Okay.
And how
today's show, obviously, we're going to learn something.
Yeah, we're going to learn about.
And then we're going to reenact that once again at the end to say how this should have went.
Right.
Okay. All right. I got it. I'm playing along.
Yeah, and it shouldn't have ended with me storming out the door, slamming the door, and leaving.
Right. Okay. I got it.
Okay.
You said,
Although you can.
At least you said bye. You was like, bye. It's like,
You always say bye.
I've never heard an argument that ended with bye. But all right.
Oh, no. I don't storm out of doors, but if I'm going to leave an argument or a discussion or anything, I am going to let you know that I'm leaving. But there's also rules about that, too. This is kind of like rules of engagement.
Okay.
So, the importance of effective communication is it increases the intimacy in your relationship. You can't have an intimate relationship if you're not communicating well with your partner. And it's not just communicating during conflict, because a lot of times, little things can become issues of conflict because you're not communicating it properly.
Okay.
It increases connection. You know how we've talked about chemistry versus connection and how important connection is, because that's what's going to hold you together forever.
Right.
Understanding.
But do you find that as people continue to grow and the years and months pass by, that the communication starts to change?
It should. It should become less work and more just innate. We just know how to talk to each other. Because there's different communication
I
styles.
think that early part, though, is like the hard part for me. I don't know about you, but for me, you know, when we first started dating, then it's like, okay, I can talk to her. You know, it's going to be sweet and sappy and all that. And then all of a sudden, after like 6 months, I'll be like, you know, you really don't care. It's like, what happened to the sweetness?
What happened to the sweet and sappy, or what happened to explaining where it's coming from?
You know, I just think that, I guess in my head, I always figured that after a certain amount of time, she knows my humor. She knows who I am, you know, and maybe that's wrong. That probably is wrong, but, you know.
No, I don't really think there's right and wrong in this. I think that your partner does know your humor and know the things that you would be joking about. But I think that there's always going to be, you know, like when you've got a toothache and you put your tongue in it, there's always going to be a few little spots that even if you're trying to hit it with humor, it might be a really sensitive or sore spot. So until your partner completely gets over the sensitivity to it, it's not even a good idea to joke about it.
Really?
Yeah. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but, you know, it's like, you know, my humor always comes out of left field sometimes, and then I'm not chuckling.
No,
you know?
you're not.
It's like it's not like I'm ha 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 ha. I just say something on the fly and be like, I want to really see how you process it and see how you deal with it. And that's normally how I operate.
You just throw shit out on the fly and wait and see how the other person takes it?
Yeah.
And so what happens if they don't take it the way you expect them to?
Then we talk about it. It's a problem.
Then it becomes, then it could become conflict.
Yeah.
Because then everybody gets in their feelings.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so you don't like it.
You know, because I'm saying, I was just playing. You know, now you done took it somewhere else. So I guess that's not effective communication.
No, I mean, I think, and I agree, if you're going to say something that's a little challenging to your partner, or you know you might be hitting a sore spot, and you're going to say it jokingly, I think that you have the responsibility before your partner gets in their feelings to say, listen, I was just joking.
Right.
Not to let it keep going.
That's true. That's true.
And so all of these things basically would increase understanding, which is at the end of the day, it's what you want in a relationship. You know, you want to be in a position where you understand your partner. Do you feel that every time we've had a conflict, or do you feel that you understand me better?
Yeah, I understand. Just be quiet. Let's get it over with. Let's talk about it later. That's what I understand. Now, I feel like you learn something each time, and you know, you can't bring old situations into new situations. The way that you handled someone in the past may not be the way that you want to handle the person you're with now. So, you know, you learn. So, yes, I'm learning.
Okay. And so this learning and this understanding and all this, it eventually will strengthen the trust in the relationship and the trust in your partner. I think the reason there's a lot of communication issues at the beginning of a relationship is because you're still working on trusting your partner.
Right.
And so if they come out of left field with things that are hurtful, that actually breaks down the trust a little bit, because, you know, okay, this person's communicating to me in a way that's hurting me, so why would I trust them to take care of my feelings and my emotions?
Right. I agree. You know, but hey, you know, I think that women are super sensitive to that kind of stuff. Guys be like, whatever.
Oh, I disagree with you there. I
Guys
think
be like, whatever, for real.
Whatever what? We're not.
Whatever, man. Whatever you saying, you know, you'll get over it. You know, let's get through it and get on with the day.
So if you were to upset your partner, you're just going to say, whatever, she'll get over it?
No, I'm not going to just, you know, walk out like that. But I think that women take it a little bit more intense than guys.
In what sense? How do you define the intensity?
Because, like, you know, guys are, before one could say, I'm just playing, you know, you already then took it 3 degrees different. Like, it's like, oh no, well, this and that, and now we're not even talking about what I do. I'm using the scenario of what we were talking about at the top of the show. We're not talking about what I do around here. Now it's like, I didn't like your mama anyway. And it's like, how my mama get into this?
Well, and so that's very ineffective communication, because you're not supposed to be throwing everything in the kitchen sink into it. You should always focus on the matter at hand.
Right.
And so, because those are blanket statements, and that's really ineffective when you're communicating. And so, I agree. I agree to a certain extent with what you're saying, but there's also, effective communication would be, I think, I don't feel like you really care about this. But see, when it's a joke, then it's not really communication. It's a joke. And it's a joke that maybe went down the wrong alley.
Wrong path.
Yeah, wrong path. Thank you. But I mean, let's say you were truly saying something that you want to bring up an issue to your partner, and it's not necessarily an issue of conflict. It's just an issue I want to talk about. If I tell you, I feel neglected because you are spending so much time at work, and I don't feel like you have time for me. It's completely different than I say, you never have time for me. You're always at work. That's all that matters to you. Because I'm throwing blame, and I'm not accepting any responsibility for my emotions, which I should be. And I'm blaming you for it.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. How would you handle that?
How would I handle
How
what?
would it be effective? What would be the effective way to communicate that?
To communicate that you spend a lot of time at work? Or
Yes.
Just like that. Just like I said, honey, lately I feel like you're spending a lot of time at work. I feel lonely. I feel somewhat neglected. Is there anything that I could do to help you so that you don't feel like you have to work so hard? Or maybe take dinner to your office and we can have dinner together every once in a while. I just miss you.
Okay. Versus,
I'm really tired of you spending every freaking waking moment in that office of yours. What's going on over there? You having parties or something? Because, I sure see you over there. And you know what? You don't get home that tired. You get home and you're wired. So what are you doing over there?
Yeah, that would definitely get it on. Yeah, you got me sparked up, and I'm not. We just doing a podcast. I'm like, wait, hold up. It's getting it's getting a little too real now. Are we still in the demonstration mode? I'm losing my balance.
So when you start a conversation and you start with that negativity, what you're doing to your partner is you're putting them on the defensive.
Right.
Because now all of a sudden I'm blaming you for everything. I'm not picking up any of the emotional part. I'm not saying how I feel. It's you did, you do, you are, and it's not I feel. And
but what if a person really turns that around and be like, the reason I'm at the office is because
I can't stand being with you.
I don't enjoy spending time with you anymore. It's like, because you're this and you're that, and now it becomes a back and forth.
And that's where you hit this. And then there's flooding, which means both partners get flooded in their emotions, and there's no effective communication going on.
Right.
And so then it's just defense, and then it can, I don't want to say escalate. It can get to the point where you're just really just hurling insults at one another.
Absolutely. Because then my experience becomes, it's like, we may be talking about me not being at home, but over the course of 20 minutes or more, now it's about, I see why you were single. I mean, it goes into this whole other thing that has nothing to do with me not being here.
Exactly. And so then that's when you start bringing out everything, including the kitchen sink.
Because and then at that point, I'm feeling like, this is what you thought anyway. Like, how long you been holding this? So let's really talk about that. So it then went from me not being there to what I think you thought about me.
Right.
So
so you lose.
It loses traction fast.
And absolutely. And I think the worst part is you lose the reason for the conversation to begin, that you began the conversation with, because we are no longer talking about the fact that, hey, you're at work and I miss you. Now we're talking about the fact that I can't stand being with you, and that's why I'm at work.
Right. Now I done went to a whole nother space.
Yeah.
So I think in this episode, I would really like you to, tell me what is effective. Let's just go down the list. Let's
What
see.
is
You got
what?
what's effective communication? Like how should those situations, when they spark up, because they will, how should they be handled?
Okay, so effective communication, you start off with clear language. And so if you're in your feelings and you have to be in the right frame of mind. It has to be the right place and time. So for instance, if your partner was having an issue, if I was having an issue with you spending all this time at the studio, I wouldn't wait till you come home after a long day at work and say, we need to talk. I would find a moment because obviously it's something that's bothering me, but I would find the right moment to talk about it, a moment where, you shouldn't have your cell phone with you, TV should be off, cell phone should be put down, turned off, not part of the equation, because there should be no distractions to our having this conversation, because it doesn't always have to end up in conflict. And if you have open communication and you have open conversations, it's not going to end in conflict.
Right.
So it would be, like I said, the I statements. I feel, I think, I want, I need. Mm-hmm. Instead of the blaming you for everything that's going wrong in my life. And so the I actually put some level of responsibility on me as well. And so after you have this conversation, the next thing would be, what can I do to help? How can I help change this?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, what you really want to do is put your ego and my ego aside and put the relationship front and center, because that's what we're both supposed to be working to support.
Right.
There should be no contempt, so there shouldn't be any contemptuous words or meanness. It shouldn't escalate to a point where you're just, or degrade to the point where you're just being mean and throwing mean words and sentences to one another. There should be no shutting down.
What do you mean?
Stonewalling, and that's really where you just basically, like you said, most guys are saying they'll just get over it, so you just sit there and listen to it, and you shut down, and you have no input, you don't have anything to say, and it makes your partner feel like you really don't care.
Right. Interesting.
And you shouldn't assume, you should make assumptions about the other person's feelings. So when you're having an argument or a discussion or you're trying to fix something, if you're not going to use the I statement, use the we statement, or us, I miss us. I miss what we were. I miss what we've had. How can we get back to that? What can I do to get us back to that?
But don't you think that's going to open up something else? Because, once that starts to happen, then you say, well, what can we do? Well, then it's, you've changed. You know what I'm saying? It goes into that. That's something else. You've changed. I'm staying away now because, I guess it could be effective because, it's dealing with the problem.
Right. And but so instead of saying you've changed, you could say, I feel like something has changed here. And so it really is being a little bit more cautious or selecting your words more carefully and I think the most important thing in any type of conversation is when you start getting defensive, and I work on this, I'm working on this so hard because I do get defensive and I know it, I recognize my faults. When I start feeling defensive about something, instead of trying to defend myself, I should pick up a questioning attitude. So instead of defending, well, I did this, it's like, well, why do you feel that I'm doing that?
Interesting.
Yeah, and so it truly is about putting myself or putting yourself in your partner's shoes, trying to understand their perspective, becoming empathetic to how they're feeling. And so And that's just the communication part. I mean, effective communication, it takes time, it takes practice, because it's just not about the person that's speaking. It's also, let's talk about nonverbal language. Because, you want to use respectful language and you want to use a respectful tone and you don't scream at the person. But what about the person that you're talking to? Their nonverbal cues are just as loud as the words that are being said or not said. Rolling your eyes, clicking the side of your mouth, crossing your arms, looking away. Even something as simple as posturing your body, not facing your partner.
Yeah, man, those, I think that becomes very hard when you've been in relationships and now you're at 60 and it's like, oh, you want me to try something new?
Right.
It becomes hard because, people have had lives. As a child, you could train that. But as an adult, that becomes, that's work for real.
Well, it is. And so I guess my comment to that would be, for those of us that are in our 60s and we've been through divorces and failed relationships, was poor communication part of it? Because
Absolutely.
The number one reason people end up in therapy and in marriage counseling always boils down to the fact that, he doesn't understand me. She doesn't know me. Just something as simple like, I expect my partner to know when I'm joking. She doesn't understand me.
Right.
And so at some point, there's a break in the communication where you don't feel like you're being understood. And the worst thing to be is feel like you're not being heard or seen by your partner.
I know the feeling.
Right.
I know what that feels like, but it's just, it's definitely work. It's something that, when you're used to, because my MO is run. Mm-hmm. I'm like, let me just get up out of here, man. I'll get back to this later. And I'll go do whatever I'm going to do. Stay away 4 or 5 hours.
And that's not wrong either. I mean, so, there's, like I said, rules of engagement. There has to be, if the conversation is going somewhere, it's going downhill, the best thing that you can do is walk away from it.
And the walk away was always because I never wanted to have to say something that I'm going to have to apologize for. And while my temper is flaring, it's like, let me just walk away.
Right. So what you do
come
is
back to this.
Exactly. So this is part of the rules of engagement. You are entitled to do that, and that should be a given in any relationship. Both partners, if they start feeling a certain way or they think that this is escalating beyond and it's going to take them to a point where it's going to be really hard to pull back, you step away and you tell your partner, look, I got to step away. This is just, it's getting too heated. I'm in my feelings, whatever you want to say. But you don't just walk out. Like, you don't do the bye. You tell them, give me half an hour, give me an hour, and we'll come back to this. I do want to address this. I just need some time to regroup. And then you walk away from it, and both of you do, and your partner understands, and you go for a run, take a shower, read a book, watch some TV, do something to pull yourself out of that moment of anger. And that's a really hard thing to do, because when you're upset, it's like having a scab. You want to keep picking at it, and you don't want to just step away from it. And if you step away, and let's say you say, I need half an hour just to digest this, and half an hour's come and you're still not ready to have that conversation, you go back to your partner and say, I need more time. I'm still hurt. I'm still offended. I'm still upset. And I want to give you the best of myself so that we can get to the bottom of this and we can fix it. And you turn around and you leave again. And your partner has the responsibility to accept that.
Okay.
So
right.
What you're doing wasn't wrong. Leaving and regrouping wasn't wrong. It's just, if you just leave and say bye, and you don't tell them.
That's like, I'm out of here, man. Forget this.
Yeah. Well, see, that's not.
That's normally the MO.
Yeah.
Like,
and so then that leaves your partner thinking, if you have a fear of abandonment, because these things can bring up all these old traumas. So if you have this fear of abandonment and your partner does that, you can automatically think, oh, that's it, they're leaving. or we're just not going to talk about this. And so it's important that when you do that, you actually really do address the issue, because what will happen is you lose trust in the partner when they come back to be able to pick it up and fix it.
Could you say something like, hey, look, I just think that I'm just going to go spend the night at the hideaway, the other house. I got you stomped on that one.
Yeah, well,
right?
I mean, you asked if you could say it. You could say whatever you want.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, would that be proper?
I think that it could bring more problems than not. I mean, most people don't really have a second place to go to. I mean, I guess you could go to your mom's house or your brother's house or a friend's house, but now you're bringing other people into your personal business. So you're better off. And I'm
not going to go over and tell them what I'm talking about.
Well, if you go home, it's like, I'm going to spend the night here, Mom. Well, what's the matter, hon? Nothing?
Just,
I miss you, Mom.
I miss you. I miss that cooking.
So, first thing they're going to say is, what's up with so-and-so? What's up with your relationship? Why are you here? Right. So, I don't necessarily believe that arguments have to be resolved by the end of the night.
I do.
Well, I know you do, but sometimes that makes it for a very long night, and sometimes really you just need to sleep on it and wake up with a refreshed mind.
All right, let's just look at the scenario, though, with the way things are in the world today. What if I don't wake up tomorrow?
And that's happened before. Well, if you've chosen to go someplace and be away from your partner and you don't wake up tomorrow, you never gave it a chance to fix. If you stay home, and you are my partner, you are my husband, you are whatever, you are the man I live with. My expectation is that you're in bed next to me, even if you're upset. You don't sleep on the couch. You don't sleep in another room. You sleep in the bed next to me, because that's where we belong. And so sometimes that closeness, bumping into each other in the middle of the night, just extending a hand in the middle of the night and touching your partner, that brings back the fact that, hey, we're a unit. Now, if you go away, you go to another bed, you go to somebody's house, you go to a strip club.
Why did strip club come into this?
Because it always ends up there. But if you do something like that, especially at night, there you're running the risk of truly the problem getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Because I'm so angry with you, I don't even want you next to me. I mean, and that would be like if you're caught cheating or something that horrendous, then I would understand we need a physical break from one another. There's certain arguments and certain things that it's safer to be away from each other physically right now. But just for a normal conversation or a regular fight that maybe doesn't go in the right direction, I don't believe in sleeping in different beds.
Okay. All right. So no sleeping in separate beds, no sleeping on the sofa, no running away overnight at the second home or your mama's house.
No, I mean, basically you can put a pin in it and you say, you know what, it's late, we're both tired, we're both really in our feelings, we need to have this conversation, but now's not the time to do it. Let's shower and go to bed, and tomorrow we'll have fresh minds and fresh hearts. And then you pray, I mean, I go to bed, and if I'm really upset about something, I pray for wisdom and guidance. And so the next day...
Wisdom comes with a hardship.
Yeah, the wiser you are, the harder it is. Absolutely.
But that's interesting, man, because I really feel at this age, some of our traumas really follow us. And the way that we've handled things in the past is normally how we continue to handle things. And so, when you get with a new person, because I don't like drama. Drama is the quickest way to get rid of me, man. Like, I'm a creative type, man. My brain will shut down on me in a heartbeat. And I got to keep that thing moving. So it's like...
I always thought creative types were dramatic, though.
Nah, not at all. Because you're pulling it out of the air. And if you got cloudiness, you can't get it.
That makes sense.
You can't get to it, Now, you can write about it later or whatever because you're going to remember that. But, those initial thoughts and ideas in that creative process, you can't tap in. because it's so clouded with this other
everything
stuff.
else,
It's
right.
like I just can't get there.
Yeah, and I guess even for people that aren't creative, it affects them also because it does cloud your mind, and it keeps you from being able to make sound choices.
That's for sure. So, I think my takeaway thus far is that, we should use we and I statements, not you.
No blame, because that makes the other person defensive.
Right.
Be questioning instead of being defensive. When you're listening, and this is a really important part, be an active listener, because most people, when people are talking to you, they're actually listening to respond. They're not listening to hear what you say. So in conversations, especially during conflict, listen to what your partner is saying without interrupting them, and then validate their feelings. I understand that you took that seriously when I meant it as a joke. However, I meant it as a joke. I understand how that may have hurt your feelings. And if anything is said that you don't really understand, ask them clarifying questions. It's like, but why did you say that? Because why did you feel that way? I didn't, when I said that, that wasn't how I meant it. And respond to them. So, okay, I get it. I understand. You were upset because I made this comment to you. Validate their feelings. And then you can say, that's not how I meant it.
Right.
But always validate the fact that how they felt, because that teaches empathy, and that actually increases understanding between the partners.
Right. That's why most guys or girls want to just be with a person that they just don't speak a lot. Just be like,
well, that's not going to solve it either.
He's a pushover, man. She's a pushover, and she's not going to say anything.
I could never be with a pushover.
Nah, me either.
No, I need someone that has strength and personality, because I can be pretty strong.
Yeah. I've gotten to a place where, seriously, I'm just tired now. It's like, man, I'm supposed to be cruising through the rest of this, and I get tired. But when in my younger years, oh my goodness, I could raise some hell. But today,
I can see that.
I'd be like, nah, man, let me pick my battles wisely.
And so that's actually, and thank you for bringing that up, because that is so important. Not everything has to be a battle. And so that's really the most important part about communicating, besides in conflict. And that's why the check-ins are so important as well, because all this increases understanding, so that when your partner does say something and maybe it doesn't quite sound the way you want to hear it, your history with your partner is, well, they would never say something hurtful to me like that, because that's just not who they are.
My therapist was saying, no, you should not just, blow past it. Because it's like, those things start to build.
They'll come back,
and they start to fester. And one day you're going to have this huge explosion, and the person that you're exploding on, you're going to be unloading some stuff that was probably 6 months ago.
Yeah, it's going to be verbal vomit that you're going to be spewing all over your partner, and they're going to have no idea that you were feeling this way because you never brought it up.
Right. I was just passing on it. Pass. Nah, that ain't worth the fight. That's not worth the having 2 days of missed opportunities here. So it's like, nah, it's not worth it. So she suggested that, okay, you don't have to blow up, but everything should be talked about if it's bothering you.
Exactly. And I mean, there are going to be issues that aren't always going to be resolved, because these are two separate personalities coming into a relationship, and you're never going to think like I think, and I'm never going to think the way you think. But the point is to try to understand how you think, so it doesn't cause conflict. So.
Yeah, I agree, man. I just really think that, again, it's really hard when you've had experience and you're not a child, and it's like you're bringing all of that experience to the next opportunity. It's hard to change old ways.
It is. So this takes time. It takes practice. It takes do-overs. There may be a day where we fail doing this, and it's like, okay, well, let's have a do-over. Let's have this conversation the way we should have, which is what I'm thinking we should eventually do for the conversation we started at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, okay. So let's do
Let's do a do-over.
The do-over. I just feel like, we are not where we used to be. I feel like we take things for granted.
Okay, and so what is it that you feel that we're taking for granted?
The things that we used to do around here, the things that we used to do together, I don't feel like we do those things anymore.
And is there anything that you feel that I could be doing differently?
Yeah, I think that we can get back to how we used to talk to each other and how we used to love on each other. That would definitely be a starting place because I don't feel my value.
Oh, I'm not making you feel valued.
Yeah. I'm not feeling that, but, I'm sure that you've been going through some things at your job and with the kids and,
Yes, but that still doesn't, I still want to make you feel valued. So I would want to understand what it is, how I've changed, what it is that I'm doing differently.
Like you don't joke around anymore. Like you don't get my humor. You don't understand those things anymore. And I just want to get back to us, where we used to be.
Okay, and I agree. I have noticed.
Are you feeling the same?
I was going to say, yeah, I've noticed a certain level of, a little bit of separation between the two of us. And I'm missing what we used to be and how we used to be. And I've noticed that you're spending more time at work. And I don't know if it's because I'm driving you there. I'm not physically driving you, but I'm putting you in a position where you just want to spend more time away from me. And I don't want that. I miss you. And I long for you.
Okay, well, tonight when I get home, as soon as I get home.
I'll make sure the kids are at Mom's house for the night.
Yeah, okay. See, this is what we used to do. Let's get back to it.
That's a deal, Chris. So
this is so corny. But
no, I know. And arguments aren't always going to end perfectly. And we're kind of...
I actually like the argument, man, because the makeup is always good. Like, we'd be like, let's have that makeup 6.
Oh, gosh, yeah. But some people actually don't understand and they have difficulty in finding a way to make up. How do you approach your partner after you've made up? And I'm like,
I separate those items.
Yeah.
It's like, you look like you want to leave? Okay, let me show you why you shouldn't. These are nonverbal communication pieces here. Let me show you why you shouldn't.
Yeah, you show them. And actually, coming back from that, and it's hard when you've been emotional, and sometimes you do just need to step away, and you can start by very lightly. Just, to me, physical touch is so important. So if I've been upset and we've been in an argument and I go around and I just stroke the back of your head, or I rub your shoulder, or I grab your arm, that's just my trying to reinstitute the physical connection between the two of us. And that's really important, even in a heated moment, that you reach out to your partner and you touch them.
All right. Well, I feel like we learned something today. We had a demonstration, both ends, front and back. And
doesn't sound good, but yeah.
Nah, but I mean, we at the top of the show and at the back of the show. It's like effective communication. I think that, people are so stressed these days, and, the least little things tip them off. So patience, man. I think you got to have some patience.
Absolutely. And this is where we're going to wrap it up with patience, good communication, lots of love. And always, I think the most important part is being open and honest and questioning. Have a questioning attitude. Nobody wants to hurt their partner.
Absolutely.
So, well, you all, I want to thank you very much for joining us. It was great spending some time with you. I hope you've had a great weekend. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And if you want more relationship advice, please remember to join Chris and I every Tuesday at 2:35 on soulcaferadio.com. See you then. Until then, live in love.